A guy wakes up groggy from a wild night of partying, only to find a total stranger sleeping next to him. To make matters worse, his neck is completely covered in hickeys. He checks his phone and his heart drops. His fiancée has been blowing up his phone with frantic calls and voicemails, and he hasn't answered a single one. If she finds out about this, he is dead meat. The wedding would be off and his reputation would be dragged through the mud. Just as he's having a total meltdown, a buddy gives him a lifesaver of an idea. Call the Excuse Company. This agency specializes in crafting airtight alibis, getting people out of impossible situations like absolute magicians, and it works perfectly. After the company's founders, Greg and Augustine, worked their magic, the guy doesn't just get off the hook. He's framed as a hero who spent the night rescuing a stray dog. Instead of dumping him, his fiancée ends up loving him even more. The story centers around our main guy, Greg. When Greg was just 10 years old, his parents' marriage completely blew up because his dad was having an affair and was terrible at hiding it. Whenever his parents fought, they took all their anger and frustration out on little Greg, leaving him pretty traumatized. But Greg processed this in a really weird way. He figured that if his dad was just a better liar and never got caught, their family would never have fallen apart and they'd still be happy. It's a twisted way of looking at things, but to a kid's mind, it made perfect sense. This bizarre realization led to a lifelong vow. When he grew up, he was going to start a company that provided flawless excuses for people. He wanted to save relationships and keep the peace so that no one else's family would have to break apart. Fast forward to adulthood, and Greg actually makes it happen. He and his best friend Augustine launched the business, and thanks to their flawless execution, it absolutely explodes in popularity. They even bring on a new guy named Mehdi just to handle the massive workload. Together, this trio basically holds the keys to the entire city's dirty little secrets. Their business model is simple. You pay them, and they manufacture an alibi so bulletproof that not even the cops could poke a hole in it. Let's say a housewife wants to sneak off with her side piece. No problem. The company fakes a baking class enrollment, and while she's out having fun, they literally deliver a freshly baked cake to a husband, telling him she made it with love. The husband is thrilled. What about a middle-aged dad who wants to skip family dinner to watch a football game? They use heavy sound effects and fake video call backgrounds to make it look like he's stuck at the office pulling overtime. Won the lottery but want to hide the cash from your wife? They'll arrange a solo vacation and draw up the divorce papers. A closeted pop singer who wants to dodge rumors? They hire a gorgeous model and stage a fake paparazzi shoot to create a straight scandal. Even if a kid just wants to skip school, they'll fake a grandparent's death, put on a performance that brings the teacher to tears, and score the kid a week off. One day, after wrapping up with a few clients, the trio is driving back when they spot a dog tied up by the side of the road. The poor thing looks weak and helpless. Greg is a massive dog lover, so he immediately jumps out and unties the leash. But the truth is, the dog isn't abandoned at all. The owner, a gorgeous woman named Flo, had just stepped into the woods to answer nature's call, and the leash had accidentally slipped loose. When Flo walks back out, Greg, being the ultimate BS artist, completely plays it up. He puts on a dead serious face, acts like he just rescued this incredibly sick dog from the brink of death, and insists they rush to the animal hospital together. Flo is completely swept off her feet by his kindness and compassion. Luckily, the dog is perfectly fine, but Greg realizes he can't get Flo out of his head. He's totally smitten, so he builds up the courage to shoot her a friend request on Facebook. Meanwhile, back at the office, an older guy named Gerard walks in. He's sweating, shifting around, and nervously explains that he has a friend who is married but desperately wants to spend a romantic weekend in Cannes with his mistress. It is painfully obvious that Gerard is talking about himself. But Greg is a total professional. He doesn't judge. Instead, he crafts a brilliant plan. He hooks Gerard up with a Brunner credit card so there's zero paper trail, and he sends a body double to Gerard's hometown to use his actual credit card for everyday shopping. That way, Gerard's wife won't have a single reason to suspect his husband has left the city. It's an absolute masterclass in deception. Back in Greg's personal life, things are looking up. Flo accepts his friend request and invites him out to dinner as a thank you for saving her dog. She picks a bowling alley and buys them cheap fast food, making it pretty clear right out the gate that she's incredibly frugal. As they eat, she drops a massive bombshell. She's a lawyer, and she absolutely despises liars. Since Greg's entire career is literally built on lying, he knows the truth would end the relationship before it even starts. So he panics and tells her he's a flight attendant. Flo is super competitive, and she's determined to crush him on the bowling lanes. They make a bet. Whoever loses has to do something incredibly humiliating in public. Flo is leading the score, but Greg pulls out his secret weapon, throws a perfect strike, and wins the game. Honoring the bet, Flo strips down to her underwear and acts like a wild animal out on the sidewalk, while bystanders crack up laughing. Hating the sting of defeat, she immediately demands a rematch. This time, it's a staring contest. First to blink loses. Flo plays completely dirty, leaning over to show off some cleavage to throw him off. Greg can't handle the distraction, blinks and loses. But honestly, it felt like a total win to him. After that, they officially start dating, and their relationship is full of goofy, romantic games. Like one time, Greg dresses up in a full police uniform and sneaks into her house to surprise her, only to walk right into her mom. It's painfully awkward, but hilarious. As things get serious, Flo decides it's time for Greg to meet her parents. But when he walks through their front door, his jaw hits the floor. Gerard's dad is none other than Gerard, his client, the guy hiding the mistress. The client is suddenly his future father-in-law, and the alibi master is the future son-in-law. Gerard is equally terrified. Realizing how messy this is about to get, Greg offers to cancel the Can's contract. Gerard agrees, but then they both realize they're locked in a stalemate of mutually assured destruction. They both hold each other's darkest secrets. If one goes down, the other goes down with him. So they look at each other and make a silent pact. Business as usual, and nobody breathes a word to anyone. To set the stage for the big weekend, we find out Gerard has a clueless neighbor named Wang. Everyone in the neighborhood knows Wang's wife is cheating on him with multiple guys, except for Wang himself. Meanwhile, Gerard's wife, Marlene, is totally heartbroken. This upcoming weekend is their wedding anniversary, but Gerard has fed her the lie that he has a mandatory work conference out of town. Flo tells Greg that since he supposedly has a flight to Tanzania for his flight attendant job, she's going to spend the entire weekend comforting her depressed mom. Over in Cannes, Gerard arrives at a fancy hotel with his mistress, Cynthia. Cynthia is an eccentric, trashy singer who shoots bizarre heavy metal music videos. Wanting to set a romantic mood, Gerard calls room service for some champagne, but he nearly has a heart attack when he sees the price tag is 1,000 euros. Being the ultimate cheapskate, he refuses to pay it. Cynthia couldn't care less about money, but Gerard sneaks out of the hotel, buys a dirt-cheap bottle of booze from a corner store, and literally picks wild weeds from the side of the road to use as a bouquet. But as he's walking back to his room, his blood runs cold. Walking right toward him down the hotel hallway is a very familiar face. It's his wife, Marlene. In a blind panic, Gerard ducks into the nearest open hotel room to hide. But the universe has a cruel sense of humor, because the room he just broke into is the exact room booked by Marlene and Flo. The two women walk right through the door. Gerard desperately dives into the wardrobe, holding his breath. And right at that exact moment, his phone starts ringing from inside the closet. It's his wife calling. The real kicker here is that Flo had actually seen the exact same hotel advertisement Gerard was holding on to, so she decided to treat her mom to a budget-friendly weekend getaway right there at the same resort. They really are a frugal family, but Flo is a sharp lawyer, and she immediately gets suspicious. If her dad is really here to celebrate his anniversary, where is his luggage? And more importantly, where is his wedding ring? Meanwhile, Greg is acting as Gerard's body double at that fake conference. He swipes the burner credit card and video calls Flo to tell her he's safely landed in Tanzania. But as he's looking at his screen, his heart drops. He sees Gerard sitting right there next to Flo in the background. Greg is totally speechless. To make matters worse, Flo casually mentions that Tanzania is famous for its zebras and demands he send her a picture with one. Now, the #1 rule of the excuse company is to protect the client at all costs. Greg scrambles, grabs his partners Augustin and Mehdi, and hatches a desperate plan to break into Gerard's house, steal his luggage and wedding ring, and overnight them to the hotel. They cut the main power to work in the dark, and Mehdi cleanly shatters a window like a seasoned cat burglar. After a frantic search, the trio finally manages to locate the ring. Just as they're about to make their getaway, the neighbor, Wang, walks in. It turns out Marlene had asked him to feed the dog while they were away. Greg and the guys immediately duck into hiding. Now, Wang secretly has a massive crush on Marlene. Thinking he has the house all to himself, he starts getting a little too romantic while staring at a framed photo of her. Feeling totally relaxed, he lights up a cigarette, but when he casually flicks the butt, it lands straight on the dog, instantly setting the poor animal's fur on fire. The house turns into absolute chaos, giving Greg, Augustine, and Mehdi the perfect distraction to escape. But their troubles are far from over. Mehdi suffers from narcolepsy, a condition where he randomly falls into a deep sleep, and in all the rush, he completely forgot his meds. While behind the wheel of their RV, he literally falls asleep driving. Greg and Augustine are terrified. They frantically shove Mehdi out of the way, and Greg takes over the wheel. As they're cruising down a country road, they spot a random horse or donkey chilling in a field. Remembering he still owes Flo that zebra picture, Greg gets a wildly reckless idea. He grabs a can of black spray paint and actually paints zebra stripes all over the animal. It doesn't go smoothly. The angry animal kicks Augustine and Mehdi to the dirt, but they manage to snap the photo and send it to Flo just in time. The very next morning at the hotel, Gerard quietly slips out of bed. Flo, still highly suspicious, shadows him down the hallway and watches him sneak into another room. She is convinced she's finally caught him in the act of cheating. She marches up, ready to bust him, but right at that second, Augustine, fully disguised as a hotel waiter, steps in and hands Gerard a ridiculously expensive jewelry box. He loudly announces that it's a surprise anniversary gift for his wife. Flo instantly feels completely ashamed for ever doubting her dad. Now, Greg just needs to get rid of the mistress, Cynthia. He pulls her aside and lies, saying Gerard got way too drunk, started a massive brawl, and was hauled off by the cops. Without missing a beat, Greg introduces himself as a big-shot music director and promises to turn Cynthia into a global superstar. Obsessed with fame, she completely forgets about Gerard in a heartbeat and happily agrees to jet off to Paris with Greg. With the immediate fires put out, Greg assigns Mehdi to keep an eye on Flo and Augustine to tail Gerard and Marlene. But remember, Mehdi is fighting a losing battle against narcolepsy. While trying to keep watch, he passes out on a pool air mattress and literally drifts out into the open Mediterranean Sea. He eventually wakes up surrounded by a boat of undocumented immigrants. When the Coast Guard shows up, Mehdi tries to be a hero, hiding them and distracting the cops. But because of his completely bizarre outfit, the cops assume he's the illegal immigrant and throw him straight into a holding cell.
Back at the hotel, the shiny new jewelry works like a charm, completely reigniting the spark between Gerard and Marlene. They spend the day driving through scenic mountain roads and playfully skipping stones by the river, totally in love again. Augustine tries to keep an eye on them, but ends up falling way too far behind. In a desperate attempt to catch up, he tries to pull off a leap of faith straight out of the Assassin's Creed video games by jumping off a cliff. Shockingly, he survives, but gets completely lost, eventually stumbling into a massive superhero costume party. Since Augustine is a massive comic book nerd, he is living his absolute best life. He's a hardcore romantic who has been saving his very first kiss for his one true love, and looking across the party, he thinks he's finally found his dream girl. But the dream quickly turns into a nightmare when he realizes his superhero princess is actually a very elderly woman. Poor Augustine reluctantly loses his first kiss in the most awkward way possible. Meanwhile, Gerard and Marlene have a deep heart-to-heart conversation, and their old romance is burning brighter than ever. Not wanting to waste another second, they rush back to their hotel room to get intimate. But with the worst timing imaginable, just as things are heating up, their daughter Flo walks right through the door and catches them in the most compromising position possible. While all this chaos is happening, Flo is dealing with her own heartbreak. Earlier that day, she called the hotel in Tanzania where Greg was supposed to be staying, only for the receptionist to confirm they had absolutely no record of him. Flo immediately puts the pieces together, realizing Greg has been lying to her from day one, and she is dead set on the idea that he's cheating on her. But the reality is way more ridiculous. Greg is currently stranded in the middle of nowhere. Earlier, when a sleep-deprived Mehdi was driving, he heavily damaged their RV. So as Greg is driving Cynthia away, the vehicle completely breaks down. Luckily, they bump into a friendly local who offers them a ride. Judging by their camp and tents, it becomes clear they've stumbled into a Romani or gypsy community. The friendly guy who picked them up has a terrifying dark side though. He's intensely loyal to his friends, but if anyone crosses him, he literally rips their teeth out and keeps them as trophies. He excitedly tells Greg that tonight is a big night for the camp, and they have to stay to watch. Apparently, some absolute maniac broke into their camp, stole their beloved zebra, and spray-painted it. They are just minutes away from decoding the CCTV footage to identify the culprit. Boiling with rage, the guy swears that once they find the thief, they are going to bury him alive in wet cement. Greg's blood runs completely cold because he is the thief. He stammers out a weak excuse, trying to bolt, but the guy is so hyped up, he practically drags Greg to the monitors. The video plays, and there it is, Greg's face, clear as day on the screen. Before the camp can even react, Greg sprints for his life. He grabs Cynthia, hitches a random car to their busted trailer, and hits the gas. Thinking he's out of the woods, Greg climbs onto the roof of the moving trailer, only to freeze in pure terror. Standing right there on the roof is a massive, bald gypsy enforcer. What follows is an absolutely hilarious, over-the-top action sequence that completely parodies Star Wars, complete with makeshift lightsaber battles, severed hands, and even a ridiculous mind control joke. Right in the middle of this absurd fight, the trailer violently slams into a low-hanging height barrier and gets wedged tight. Seeing her chance, Cynthia ditches Greg and speeds off in the car all by herself. When Greg finally regains consciousness, he wakes up in a hospital bed. Miraculously, he isn't seriously injured. Flo rushes to the hospital to see him, but the second she walks in, she starts grilling him, demanding to know who he's been cheating with. Greg, being the undisputed king of lies, puts on a tear-jerking performance. He tells her he flew back early from Tanzania, keeping it a total secret because he wanted to surprise her, and that's when he got into the horrific car crash. But Flo is a lawyer. She doesn't buy cheap sob stories. She demands to see his passport right then and there to check for the Tanzanian immigration stamp. But here is where the excuse company proves why they are the best in the business. Knowing they had to cover every single base, Mehdi had already stamped a flawless, counterfeit Tanzanian visa into Greg's passport. Flo inspects it, and against all odds, she actually buys the story.
Meanwhile, after surviving the sheer insanity of the past few days, Gerard has a massive reality check. He realizes that no mistress in the world could ever compare to his wife. Cheating with Cynthia was the biggest mistake of his entire life, and he is overwhelmed with guilt. He immediately calls Cynthia, dumps her on the spot, and formally terminates his contract with Greg's company. Hearing Gerard's profound change of heart hits Greg like a ton of bricks. He realizes his fake alibi empire isn't actually helping people or saving marriages, it's actively destroying families. Right then and there, he vows to shut down the business forever. Ironically, at that exact moment, his phone rings with a request from a massive new client looking to hide an affair. It's the president of France. But Greg holds firm and turns him down flat. Over at the police station, the cops finally realize Mehdi is a born and raised French citizen and let him go. Walking the streets, he bumps into Augustine. Both of them look completely defeated and miserable. Realizing they are both at rock bottom, these two guys who used to constantly butt heads suddenly bond and become best friends. As for Cynthia, getting dumped by Gerard didn't faze her one bit, because she had actually fallen head over heels for Greg. She uses the hotel room keycard Greg left behind and sneaks into his room to surprise him. But instead of Greg, she finds his laptop and a stash of confidential company files. Reading through them, the devastating truth hits her. Greg isn't a famous music director, he's a massive fraud. Furious and heartbroken, Cynthia steals his laptop and hard drive, goes online, and leaks the private data of every single Alibi.com client to the entire world. Cynthia becomes an overnight internet sensation, but for Greg's clients, it is an absolute apocalypse. Remember the guy from the beginning of the movie? His wife catches him and literally beats him up in the middle of the street. The kid who faked to death to skip school gets shipped off to a strict boarding school. The closeted pop singer loses his entire fan base. The wife who faked baking classes gets thrown out of her house. And Marlene, discovering the awful truth, completely cuts Gerard out of her life. Of course, Flo finds out about Greg's massive web of lies and dumps him instantly. Greg begs and pleads for forgiveness, but Flo shuts him down, coldly telling him she's already moved on and has a new boyfriend. A few days later, a depressed Greg is hitchhiking on the side of the road. A car pulls up and the driver rolls down the window, apologizing that he can't give him a ride because he's waiting to pick up his girlfriend. And that girlfriend? It's Flo. Greg's life is in ruins and his company is getting hit with countless massive lawsuits. One day, he's sitting all alone in his empty warehouse when a gang of vicious thugs surrounds him and starts beating him mercilessly. Right at that very moment, Flo happens to walk in. Seeing the man she loved getting beaten to a pulp, her old feelings come rushing back and she screams, running over to save him. Seeing her, Greg gets a massive surge of adrenaline, leaps into the air, and delivers an epic flying kick, completely taking out the thugs. Seeing this heroic, changed version of Greg, Flo finally forgives him. It turns out Greg didn't just close his lying business, he completely flipped his business model. He opened a mediation company, an agency dedicated strictly to helping couples fix their broken relationships through total honesty. But here is the ultimate plot twist. Flo showing up at the warehouse at that exact moment wasn't a coincidence. Gerard orchestrated the entire thing behind the scenes. And those thugs beating Greg up? They weren't real criminals. They were employees from a rival relationship-saving agency called Save Me LLC, hired to stage the fight. And just like that, with a perfect blend of romance and ridiculous comedy, the movie comes to an end. Guys, the amount of detail and hilarious background plots in this movie is just insane. I might have skipped over a few minor visual gags just to keep the story flowing, so if you have the time, I highly recommend checking out the full movie yourself. It's called Alibi.com, released back in 2017, directed by and starring the brilliant French comedian Philippe Lachaud. If you check it out on Google or Rotten Tomatoes, you'll see just how much audiences loved this one. Plus, the movie is absolutely packed with brilliant, laugh-out-loud parodies of everything from Star Wars to Assassin's Creed that will literally have your stomach hurting from laughing so hard. If you're looking for the perfect comedy masterpiece to watch with the family, this is it. And hey, psychology says that when something brings us joy and makes us laugh, we naturally want more of it. So if this video brought a smile to your face today, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. It really motivates me to keep bringing you guys more awesome movie stories just like this one. Don't forget to subscribe and stick around for more. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care.